Hello everyone, I have done a setup video for how to set up 3000 Scoundrels. Now we are going to learn how to play it. So you're going to want to skip to the 7th page, 6th page, and 7th page of your rulebook, and then you're going to follow along as I explain things really fast to you. The game takes place over 3 days. Each day consists of 4 full turns. Each full turn is going to take 3 steps. So the way you track, sounds like it's a lot to track, but the game actually tracks it for you. So I'm going to go over this really quick. Your cards that are in your hand that we picked up during setup, you play 1 card per turn. As you go, that's going to keep track of what turn you're on. If you got 2 cards left, you're on your 3rd turn if it's your turn. You got 1 card left, you're on your 4th turn if it's your turn. Then, there's a rule. These slots right here are where you put your safes that you've stolen. There's a rule that you can only have 1 safe per day that you are on. So if you're on the 2nd day, you can add your 2nd safe. Whether it's your 1st turn of that day or your last turn, you're only allowed to have 2 safes. On your 3rd day, you can have 3 safes. That keeps track of the days. Then you're going to just know whether, what step you're on of your turn. Okay, so playing game. There's 3 different steps during your turn. You're going to begin by planning. You're going to plan what card from your hand, these are the 4 cards we chose, cards from your hand are you going to be playing onto these slots right here. When you choose a card from your hand to play onto a slot, you have 2 options. You can either be completely honest and play a card that matches the card slot. When you play it face down like this, and you're going to call out, I am playing an ace. Then, at that point, any other player can decide whether they believe what you're saying and they do absolutely nothing, or they can call out your bluff and say that you were lying. They're going to say, I call your bluff, and in that situation, they would grab one of their leftover henchmen that's in their side of the board, not in jail, and they're going to play that onto your card. I'll explain what happens with that at the end of the day. I just want to go in order of exactly how things can be played out. So, then you don't do anything or say anything. You don't want to give them any symbols or hints or anything, but once that's played, it cannot be removed. That has been called, and you can't go back and change your mind about playing a different card. Now, I do want to really quick say, they can call your bluff during any of your 3 steps. It doesn't have to be right after you put down your card. So, that's the planning phase. Then you go to the ability step. The ability step is whatever card you played, right above that there's going to be an arrow with an ability that you do. The only one that doesn't have the ability is steps, or playing the number 6 card. So, with an ace, you scout a safe at a site and then mark it. Okay, so that's your abilities, and I'll explain all the abilities in a little. The Scoundrels are also going to have abilities. Let's say you have a Scoundrel on your site. Now, what the game explains pretty poorly is that your Scoundrel's abilities can only be used once on your turn. Or, if your Scoundrel says it can only be used at the end of the day, it can only be used once at the end of the day. But, on your turn, it can only be used once. At the end of the day, it can only be used once. The end of the day is not your turn. So technically, it could be used once on your turn and then once at the end of the day, if that card specifically allows you to. I haven't seen all of the cards yet. Those are the abilities, that and that. What could happen is you start stringing abilities together. So, this is one of the cards with an ability. So if you had this here, this arrow means that wherever this arrow, whatever Scoundrel is coming from this direction over here, triggers this card is a response card. This is a response card saying that if this is activated, this scoundrel becomes activated, and you play this ability here, which is spend $1 to gain $5. So those are different things that can happen. You can play these abilities in any order that you want. So in this situation, they played an ace here. That can activate this ability, that can activate this ability, but this ability has to be played before the response ability because it's a response to that. So you can play this first or this first. That has to be played after this one. Now, there's going to be other abilities that specifically say at the beginning of your turn, you can use this card. Or at the end of your turn, you can use this card. Or once you've done scout a safe, or once you've collected money, then activate this card. You do those cards as you go. There's a nice glossary in the back of the book on how to read each card and each ability. And you look that up based on traits. And I think you can also look it up based on jobs sometimes. Okay, that's the ability step. Now you're going to do hire a scoundrel or use the sheriff's office. Once you've done all your abilities and you've gone through all of that, and again, I'll go over all of these abilities here in a little, you go to hire a scoundrel or the sheriff's office. We're going to say that this is full, and I'm going to show you how to refill it and when you refill it in a second. Now, if you decide to buy a scoundrel, you look up here. These are 3 scoundrels in the saloon. You just walked into the saloon and you're going to buy yourself a scoundrel to help you out. You're going to hire a scoundrel. So each scoundrel is going to have a price limit on the right side of their player card. And so she's $4. This character is free. This character is $1. The bullet holes are going to cover up different dollar amounts. They're going to swap out as you form new cards. But let's say you take your $2 to begin with. No. Let's say you get her for free. You're going to place her wherever you want on your board. And at this point, when you hire a scoundrel, is the only time that you can move the other scoundrels around on your board. It matters because this is a response card, and you might want that to be affected when you activate this card, activated when you activate that card. Now, immediately, as soon as you empty this hole, you move them all over to the right, and then you refill from the far left. Grab another card from the top of the job deck and the trait deck, put them together, and you got yourself a new scoundrel. If you decide you don't have enough money or you do not want to buy from the saloon, you can go to the sheriff's office. The sheriff's office says, first, you must discard the rightmost scoundrel. So, if you did not do the saloon, it's one or the other. You can't do both. If you did not buy anyone from the saloon, you immediately discard this far right person into a discard pile. Form a new scoundrel immediately. Scoot everyone down to the right and place that character on the far left. Then you do one of the 3 abilities to the right of the sheriff's office. You can sell information by gain $2. You can and sell information is just a wording. It's nothing you actually do. You just gain $2. You can post bail, so you spend $2 to free 1 henchman, or $4 to free 2. You can't spend $6 to free 3. Only 2 or 4. And then say you spend $2, you free your henchman. This goes to the money pile. Okay, you just got your henchman back. After that, whether you go to the saloon or you do the sheriff's office, it's the end of your turn. Something I want to mention, there's a brief the sheriff. It's only on the final day that you can do this. In our scenario, it's day 3. On the final day, you can spend $12 to steal a safe from here, this area. So, now that we've done that, I want to go over things in a little greater detail. So, when you plan, I already explained that. When you're planning, people can only put their henchmen on your card during that card being played. So during those 3 steps that you played that card, you can't go back and put a henchman on someone else's card from a different turn or you can't, you yourself, if it's your turn, you can't put a henchman on someone else's card. Okay. The abilities. So you have scout a safe at a site on A and 2. That means you go to any one of these areas, the depot, the estate, or the laboratory, and you pick up a card, and you yourself look at the card and put it back down. Then you, again, bluffing or not, want to go here and choose your tiles. So let's say we scouted this. That's a 6. So we can either be honest and say, it's worth 6 points. Or, yeah, it's worth 6 points. There's a benefit to being honest, there's a benefit to lying. If you're honest, every tile mark on that safe that matches the safe, whoever has that safe at the end of the game gets 1 extra point per mark. The benefit to lying, you can throw off other people and make them think that that card is worth more than it actually is, so that you can find the valuable card. Remember, you get 3 slots. I'll explain that in a little. If you play a 3, you gain $3 from the bank. Remember, as you play any of these abilities, you also trigger other abilities. So, as you go. So, if you play a 4, you gain $4 from the bank. In this situation, she played a 4, so they gain $4, and then they trigger this ability, which gains another $1, and spend one of your henchmen to jail. Send one of your henchmen to jail to gain $6. So, another thing I want to mention is if you use part of a card, you have to use as much of it as you can. So, in this situation, if she used the 4 and she got that $1, she has to send one of her henchmen to jail to gain $6. If she can't send one of her henchmen to jail, she can't get that $1 for playing the 4. If it says may, then you don't have to do it. But, and you can, in that situation, you can play just part of the card. Do the $1, and then may send one of your henchmen to jail. Because she activates this card, it activates this card, which spend $1 to gain $5. You can do that if you want. It's either you do all of the card or you do none of the card. She decides to get her $5. And spend 1. Okay. The next ability is steal a safe from a site. That's where you go to your safes over here, and you can either blind pull a safe, or you could get a safe that you have marked yourself, or that someone else has marked. It doesn't matter. But if you have marked a safe, no matter where it is on the board or player mats, you can look at the number the value of that safe. On the safe, you're going to have tech. Tech is how you score points at the end of the game. I'll explain that in a little. But you can flip it over to remember what it was. Yep, and then you can play a 6 to use your special ability in this situation. Some of these cards' abilities will have a 6. The special abilities sometimes have a 6. Otherwise, you will have a 6 in your hand occasionally. And if you don't want to lie, you would play that in the 6th spot so that you're not called out. All right, let's skip right to the end of the day now. The end of the day comes after you have done your 3 steps, they've done their 3 steps, and you've all done that 4 times. And at that point, that stays at the corner of your card, your deck, your mat. At that time, you will have none of these cards in your hand. They will all be played out on your board. When both of you have no cards in your hand, or all the slots here are full, then it triggers the end of the day. And I want to really quick mention that there is cards and abilities that allow you to fill up all these slots and use all the poker cards. Once all the slots are filled and you can't use a card from your hand to play a slot, you skip that turn. It's the end of the day as well. Now, if it's not the final end of the day, what you do is you call out any bluffs. So, what that means is you only flip over the cards that were bluffs, that people thought were bluffs. All the other ones stay face down because they might be able to call out your bluffs easier in the next game if they know what they are. So, there's 2 things that happen in this situation. When you flip it over, if you, the person with the card and someone calling you out, if you were telling the truth, their henchman goes to jail. That is the only negative effect of calling out someone's bluff and being wrong. Or You could have another situation where you were bluffing. You get your person back. You were bluffing. They called out your bluff correctly. They get their henchman back, and then this happens. They gain 1 tech. You, the person who was called out on your bluff, lose 1 tech. That's what happens at the end of the day. Now, on the final day, again, the only things that change for the final day is you can bribe the sheriff, and then when you call that out on the final day, you start to calculate all your points up. To finish the game up, there are 3 ways to calculate, to win points. There's the reputation track. You can get up to 6 points on the reputation track, or you can get -2. When you pull saves here, you should hopefully have 3 safes at the end of the day. Some of them might have tokens on them that give you bonus points. So, the safes at the end of the day, there's 4 ways to get points. The safes are going to give you points based on the number on them. And then you're going to get bonus points if the tokens that were on them match the number on the card. That's 1 bonus point per token that matches. And then you get 1 bonus point for having cards per card that has a token on it, a tech on it. That same symbol is going to be on the card itself. And then they would be in your player board here as a scoundrel. I'm not finding any off the top of my hand. But there we go. So if they were there as one of your scoundrels, that would be 1 extra point. These don't have any extra points. So let's count up Doc Zimmer's points real quick. Doc Zimmer has a -1 tech over here and 3 here. So -1 plus 3 is 2. Then we start adding up the rest of the safes. 4, 8, and then that's the safes. And then the bonus, that's 1, so 9. And then you go to the cards, that's 1 tech here, 10. So Doc Zimmer has 10 points. That's how you calculate the points. That, at the end of the 3 days, calculate your points, compare, whoever wins, wins. Thank you for watching.